All right, on to our independents. We've got We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Number 5, the ending of the first arc, the conclusion to the first arc. This is my pick of the week. You know, I give a lot of shit to Ewing on his Guardians run, but dude, this is a good book. You know, we were both into, you know, you more than me, but we're both into the cosmic shit, and that's this book's middle name, Cosmic. So basically, what we have is at the end of the last book, George was confronted by his brother's fiance. Brother's dead. And basically we're finding out that there's a lot of internal family feud going on, and she believes that his brother died because of him. And so what we find out in this book is technically he kind of did. So what we get is, so essentially what happened is when George was younger, when he was in his teens, his family was part of this coalition that we've been watching that goes and finds these dead gods and mines their body for resources. But in order for them to survive, they had to do some illegal shit, and they had to mine certain things on the body of the god that weren't necessarily legal, aka eye juice, shit like that. But George's brother was engaged to, I can't remember her name.
Shit.
I want to say it starts with an A. Vector?
Is it Richter?
Richter? Maybe that's her last name. Anyway, yeah, so let's say that. So he's engaged to her, and she is in the law enforcement. She's in the regulating group that makes sure that these miners don't go and mine illegal materials. But the family uses that relationship to their advantage and basically says, well, you know, if we put you, the brother, on the ship, she won't come and arrest us because, you know, she's your fiance. And so you're gonna, you know, she'll bend the rules, right? And so they use that to their advantage, and it ends up backfiring. Basically what happens is, she shoots a warning shot across the bow and says, "Hey, y'all shouldn't be doing that. Don't warp out. You've stolen some illegal materials." And then she finds out that her fiance is on the ship, so she's like, "Shit, what do I do?" She's having an internal conflict with her job and her duty. I said duty, and with her fiance. Basically, she hesitates, and in that moment of hesitation, something goes wrong. Their ships collide. George's brother dies. And so from that point on, within their history, she blames George and the rest of the family for his death. And so that's why she's had it out for George this entire time in the book. And so we learn about that. So this entire history lesson is happening while they're on top of a dead god. Right? Or no, was it alive? Yeah, no, it was a dead god. They're having this entire conversation.
It was alive until they cut its throat open.
Right. It was alive, they killed it. So we're learning about all this family history in this time span. In the previous book, it was mentioned that you have to be very, very, very careful. Have to be very careful. Careful when you're out in space, especially when you're out of your ship. Right? George mentions that when you're out of your ship, you need to be very mindful of meteorites. Very mindful of meteorites, especially the small ones. And we're talking like the size of an M&M kind of flying objects. Remember that. So they're having this argument. She's basically getting ready to kill George. George is trying to save one of his technicians who got flung out of their spaceship in the previous issue. And she's about to pull the trigger. She's like, "Fuck it, George. You're the reason why your brother died, and you knew it." And he's like, "You know what? You're fucking right. I did know. We knew that if we manipulated y'all's relationship, that we would get away with murder and steal a bunch of materials that we weren't supposed to do. And I'm sorry. I apologize. You know, I know it's taken this long, but now you know You know the truth of why that all happened. Was I the cause of my brother's death? Technically, yes. Do I regret it? Yes. Am I sorry? Yes. And take my life, essentially. So she gets ready to shoot the gun, and she gets taken out by a little M&M meteorite. And it happens out of nowhere. Ewing builds this dramatic tension. And you're like, oh shit, here we go. This is how it's going to end. George is dead. We're pulling a Game of Thrones. Our favorite character here is going to die. Nope. The villain. Well, I wouldn't say the villain, but the antagonist to the group literally gets 66'd by a meteorite the size of an M&M. And it happens so...
like that.
I loved it. I was literally... Sarah was sitting in the game room. I was sitting in my media room. And I was reading it, and that happened, and I was like, again, when I have my pick of the week, the book has to make me go, oh, shit. And I literally, that happened and was like, oh, damn. Yep. And then so she gets killed by a little tiny meteorite, and George goes, yep, told you. You got to watch out for the little ones. Like, no remorse whatsoever. Like, he just doesn't give a shit. And so Maddie says, isn't NASA watching pebble-sized meteorites? Exactly, bro. This is a commentary to a real-life situation. We have to be careful of the M&M-sized meteorites. Anyway, she dies, and he continues on to his... George is obsessed with these gods. And so before him is the source of where this god showed up, right? And so at this point, he's got nothing to lose. His arch nemesis is dead. The woman that he has in her arms, I would assume, is pretty close to death. I think his ship doesn't have any more fuel, so they can't get him. And so he drifts into the unknown. He drifts into this light where this god showed up from, and then the page goes black, right? Jump 10 years. We jump 10 years, and we're back at a excavation site for these miners, and a god has shown up, and he's alive, and he's pissed. He's really pissed. And I'm missing something. I'm skipping something. When he goes through the void, coming out at the other end, we see a dead god surrounded by 6 live gods. And we're like, what's going on here? And then it cuts. And then when we come back 10 years later, a new god has emerged, seemingly looking like he's attacking the miner ships. And that's how the book ends. Now, there is some speculation that the god that showed up 10 years later is George. Kind of looks like George. Not quite sure if it's George. But I walked away from the book thinking that the god that showed up 10 years later is George. I don't know if that's true, but it looks a lot like him.
I didn't realize if there was any doubt that it was George.
You didn't have any doubt that it was?
I just didn't realize anyone would doubt that. All the gods that we've been shown so far have looked exactly the same, and they looked female, and then all of a sudden we get a god that is different than we've ever seen before, and he looks exactly like the main character.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. I didn't realize that you could possibly draw any other conclusion besides that that's George.
I don't know. But either way, I dug it. And so the first arc ends with what we assume is George as a god showing up to his previous reality pissed off. And so why? What's going on? I think, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but for me, we got 6 different questions answered, and then we got 12 more coming out at the end of this book. And I think, to me, that is another aspect of a book that tells me that, this is, it's intriguing, and it makes me want to continue to read. And I know some people, there's some people that they can't follow the story because of the jumps in time. Some people can't follow the story because they feel like the coloring is muddied. When Ron presented this book to us to early review, the cover alone, I was like, yep, I'm in it. I'm on it. Like anyone that has a bold enough plan to make a cover that's just typography, You have my attention. And I think this is one of Ewing's books that definitely shines and shows his writing prowess about cosmic shit. So that's my take. I don't know about you.
Yes, 100%.
100%. Okay. So that is We Only Find Them When They're Dead, number 5. They take a break. I don't know how long they're going to be on a break for, but that's the end of the first arc. And again, if
bro, these independent breaks, that's some bullshit.
I know, and I know that Ron can explain it to us more, but they just need more time, because these writers are they work for other companies. Ewing's working for Marvel. He's writing like 3 other books. So, and I'm sure the artists that they use too. And, some of these artists probably have contracts for other books. And so I get it, but yeah, I'm with you. Like, boo, I want Something's Kill, or We Only Find Them When They're Dead, number 6 next month, and we're not going to get it. And that's super devastating to me. So dig in it. Let's see really quick. Maddie says I might be an asshole. Yep. But if I'm going to space, I don't want to worry about dying in space in my spacesuit. But I've been known to over worry.
Maddie over worry? No, I don't.
Anyway, back to your show. Sorry. Maddie, you're not okay. You're gonna be fine.